Hey listeners, Dan Harris here, host of the 10% Happier podcast. Imagine all your audio entertainment available in just one place. That's what the Audible app is all about. With Audible, you can always find the best of what you love or discover something new. Audible has an incredible selection of wellness titles and originals like The Light Podcast by Michelle Obama, Work It Out by Mel Robbins, and Confidence Gap by Russ Harris. Membership includes access to Audible Originals, podcasts, and tons of audiobooks that you can download or stream as much as you want. And as an Audible member, you can choose one title per month from an ever-growing catalog of titles to keep. The Audible app makes it easy to listen anytime, anywhere, whether you're traveling, working out, doing chores, wherever your day takes you. New members can try Audible now free for 30 days. Visit audible.com/Harris or text Harris to 500-500.
The weather is cooling down a bit. The leaves are starting to fall. Yes, it's that time of year again, football season. And we all know the best part of any game day traditions are the ones that involve food. There's nothing like having everyone in your game day crew coming together to bring their best bites and argue over whose family makes the best chili. And while there's no need to mess with the perfection of game day classics, like a freshly grilled Oscar Mayer hot dog topped with Heinz ketchup and mustard, it's always fun to step out of your comfort zone and get creative with your recipes. Because there's nothing more fun than adding to your list of game day traditions, like making a creamy and delectable queso dip with Velveeta cheese that can be eaten with so much more than just chips. Now is the chance for people across the nation to find out whose game day eats reign supreme. It's your turn to show off your tasty game day food traditions. Go to www.gamedayfoodtraditions.com to share a photo of your game day food tradition to enter to win $10,000. Once again, that's www.gamedayfoodtraditions.com to enter to win $10,000.
This is Full Change with Tom Laidlaw.
Please don't say. Please, just please.
So when you say it like that, do you really want me to? But you don't want to say that. It's like Tom saying, so you say it the negative, like I'm supposed to get drawn into that. Should I read
No, I
that
don't.
way?
Listen, I don't want to say. My daughter's a tremendously talented singer.
Is it a jealousy thing with you that you can't sing as well?
No, I can't. It's funny. My daughter has no qualms telling me I'm off key, so it just no filter with that stuff. And I know from learning you're off key. So please don't say.
What is off key though? Is it like, what if I had just have my own key?
Well, yeah, but you'd be locked out.
Donkey.
Oh wow, he went with a dad joke. We did a dad joke episode. Look at you going. Wow, Tom Laidlaw doing some dad joke.
Oh, I've got tons of bad dad jokes.
We did it. We did once, and I don't think people loved it because it's more.
Oh, is that right?
No, I don't.
Oh, okay.
Like we have fans in Finland and Sweden and Japan. We have listeners. So
Maybe some Japanese guy over there is going, what is that?
what did say? Get to the hockey thing.
Yeah.
I'm sure they're probably expats. I don't know if there's many Japanese.
You think just really?
Maybe. Who knows? I don't know. We have people in Bosnia. We have people in. I can go check right now.
Bosnia. Wow. Who would be watching or listening to us in Bosnia? Not that it's bad. It's just.
Well, we're on the charts I'll tell you all the places we're charts in U.S., Canada for hockey charts. U.S., Canada, Sweden, Spain, Japan, and Czech Republic. But we have listeners.
Nobody in Fiji?
Nobody in Fiji. They just didn't. The Survivor fans just didn't come over. Yeah. We got to work on that.
I was there for a long time.
You were? What, 5 days? 6 days? How many days?
I was there for about 3 weeks in total.
Oh, so the vacation.
Beautiful Fiji. Yeah, it's always beautiful.
So let me just, not to toot our own horn, but let's look at the last month. Our top countries are the U.S., Canada, United Kingdom, Sweden, Finland, and Japan. Wow. Those are the top countries.
Nice.
Yeah, not bad.
What country were we high on the charts here when we first started?
Spain, right off the bat. Yeah, we were like number 2 in Spain, or number 1 in Spain,
that's
actually.
Right. I was like, we lost that though, right?
Well, that's I think that's our listener Marcus Fajardo, who he's spearheading that. And my dad's actually going to Spain next month.
Oh, that's right.
I'm going to stop by and visit my friend Marcus Fajardo.
Marcus Fajardo,
who is a big hockey player and in Barcelona. So,
very cool. Spain. I've never been to Spain.
Yeah, but you have been to Fiji for 3 weeks.
Fiji, Australia, France, Czechoslovakia, Finland, Sweden, Germany, Canada.
Wow, look at you.
Yeah, I traveled quite a bit.
What was your favorite country outside of the U.S. and Canada?
Fiji was pretty cool.
Was it?
Yeah. Well, I guess because of that experience too. Australia was nice too. Like we went to Surfers Paradise and those kind of things. I think because Australia is much more like the U.S. but it's really like an outdoorsy kind of place. A lot of activities outside. So
Is it weird walking upside down though? Like, how do you...
I thought about that. That's pretty good. That's funny. Brisbane. We were actually there for Australia Day.
Oh,
that's
like the 4th of July.
Yeah, so they have this big celebration. They go to the bars, and they got. I remember it's like they've got a little paddle, and I think it's 3 coins they get. They flip the coins up in the air, and then they bet on, okay, is it going to be 2 coins?
Right.
Are they all 3 the same way, or 2 coins? Whatever it is. But we got them going so that I was out there a few beers too. So we got going where we made the person do push-ups if they didn't get it right. So it was
okay.
That was unique. That was
so
I brought that to me. That's probably spread through
part of Australia Day now, and our listeners in Australia are definitely doing that. But right now, they're doing push-ups.
That's right.
Have you been to Ireland? I've been to Ireland. I love Ireland.
Never been to Ireland.
Oh, what a great country! And you can do the accent there.
That's should we buy that? Nothing against other countries though. Yeah, as far as like North America, you really don't have to go anywhere, really. I mean, there's so much to do in North America.
I've done this a couple times. I think you have too. If you drive cross country or even cross Canada, you see the changes.
Oh,
you have the Northeast, and you have the plains, and you have the desert,
Rocky
Mountains, West, the Rocky Mountains. It's gorgeous.
Great lakes. Yeah, I just think there's so many great things to do. There's nothing wrong with traveling to other countries. I just think, go to Mexico, Canada, U.S.
Have you been to Yosemite?
I have not. No,
it's awesome.
Yeah,
so
I have been to Grand Canyon. That's where I want to go to.
I haven't done that either.
Yeah,
surprisingly,
I don't have much on my bucket list. I don't. Do you have a bucket list?
Not really.
See, I don't believe that theory just in general bucket. Nothing. I know there's the great movie with Jack Nicholson and everything, but the theory is that once you're being told that you're going to die from some disease, then you start living, doing all the things you should be doing. You should be doing it already, right? Live every day. Yeah, and it's easy for me to say. I've had a lot of opportunities, but yeah, just go do the things.
Well, so my father is now 76. My mom passed 2 years ago, and he just said, "I just want to travel. I just want to see things."
Yeah,
and there was no bucket list. He's like, "I just want to see different things."
Cool. Yeah.
So that's going to take him to Spain and Morocco, and that's going to be a cool trip for them.
Cool trip. Yeah. My youngest son went to, was it Spain? They went to, but he and his girlfriend, but they get food poisoning.
Oh, that's right. You said they had no trip basically.
Yeah.
Hospital. The whole time.
So I think kind of just like when you eat some bad food and then you throw up and you don't want to eat the food anymore.
Yeah.
So he's kind of against traveling. He likes traveling around the U.S.
I had food poisoning twice actually in college, and I'll never eat. Yeah, I had it was a calzone sandwich from an NYU cafeteria, and I was 2 days in the hospital. Never do that.
How about first time you ever drank? You're much of a drinker, are you?
I don't drink at all. I used to. I didn't get sick the first time, but I did get sick once. I think we talked about it on the show, but
I had lemon gin the first time, and I threw up. It's awful. Oh, my mother. So next day, I was underage too. I was like 16 or 15 or 16 or whatever. So next day, my buddies come over. By this time, we'd sold the farm, built a house, got a pool in the backyard. So all the guys.
Wait, I know what you did. I know the story.
What?
You drove?
No. That was my sister's wedding.
Okay.
No, they all come over, and my mother didn't realize I was hungover at the time, thrown up, and now they all start laughing at me because, she was hot. Oh,
really?
Man, I'll never forget. It's like I was like, guys, shut up.
But your parents drank though, right?
Yeah, they did. But my mother, she was the tough one. Like I got caught when I was a kid. The neighbors didn't lock the doors or whatever, so you could break in.
Right.
But nobody ever did back then. It's farm country. So a group of kids. I had the bicycle for some strange reason with a basket on the front.
Oh, wow, big tough guy.
So, yeah, so that was the getaway vehicle. So we broke into this neighbor's house, stole orange juice and raw bacon.
Why?
I've told you so many stories about my life. That's why. Just
fair enough.
So we're sitting underneath the hay wagon, eating the raw bacon and drinking the orange juice. My sister went home and told my mother. So I come home thinking it's pretty funny. She takes me down to my room and she spanks me.
Wow.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Back in spanking was much more loud.
And it explains a lot about your dating life, Eric.
And she said to me, she says, when your father gets home, I'm going to tell him what you did. And if he doesn't come down and spank you again, I'm going to come down and spank you again. So my father comes in, he's this big man, 6'4", here marching down they're talking out there. He's marching down the hallway. And I get the tears going right away. He won't spank me. I'm crying. So he gets to the door. He turns out, goes back here, saving my mother. He says, I can't do it. He's crying down there. She flies down the hall.
Oh, wow.
She didn't just walk. She flew down the hall and she spanked me again.
Jesus Christ, Tom.
Needless to say, I did not steal anymore.
And no wonder why you have issues in your dating life. Holy cow. And also, I just have to point out for everyone listening, you are so Canadian. We're drinking stolen orange juice and eating raw bacon under the hay bale. Under the hay wagon, yeah.
Oh, it's the farm country out there. Oh, I can still remember the scene, yeah. It's embarrassing. I have to tell the truth. I had a basket on the front of my bike. What was that all about?
What a huge nerd. They let you do that?
Well, back then on the farm, though, it's like...
No one cared.
Yeah, I just didn't care.
You had to transport like the milk bottles or something, right?
Yeah, some weird. I don't even know. Like we knew what a nerd was like back then. We didn't talk about a nerd. I never had.
In hindsight,
yeah.
But the first time I drank, I think I went to France on a school trip. My parents sent me when I was a freshman, and they could sign a waiver and you could drink. So because it was legal.
Oh, yeah.
So we drank beer and wine in France, which was odd.
So when I was trying out for the King Liberty, we flew over that Christmas before, traveled all around Czechoslovakia, France, I think we're in Germany as well, and actually played against the Stasny brothers over there before they turned pro. And so this one place was Český Budějovice, was where Budweiser was invented over there, and but it was all warm beer. And
yeah, that's European.
Yeah, so it's winter time, so we're hanging the beer bottles out the window to get them cold. And the hotels you stayed didn't have toilets either. It was just
they had water closets, right, down the hall.
No, it was in a room, but you just had a hole in the floor.
Well, you're used to that growing up on the farm.
Well, but we at least had a seat. There's no seat. It was just a hole.
Oh, you just drop a trowel right there.
And then it had 2 footprints to show your feet. I'll never forget this. So if you were going to take a poop, I think that they knew where to put your feet.
That's so bizarre.
I know. I'm telling you.
That's also communist Czechoslovakia, then, right?
Yeah. There was no seat whatsoever. You're just dropping. If you have to take a poop, you're getting the cheeks down.
How did you read the newspaper? Like, what are you doing there? Like, I guess you get in and out real quick, right?
Can you imagine that now with all the phones? Like,
yeah,
you have leg cramps.
Could you imagine? So you went there, and when I was 15 when I went to France, there's no cell phone.
No,
there's no tracking. There's no FaceTime.
Yeah,
your parents are like, all right, we'll see you in 10 days.
I know. Yeah, I think back about those days. Even when I went to college, like I think I told you this. I have to. My parents thought I was going to be home in 2 weeks because I said,
because Peterborough when you came home.
Yeah, and so, but I never called my parents at all for months. They finally got a hold of the coach and said, "Can you please tell him to be at his room so he can call the phone?"
Is he still alive?
Yeah. Oh, totally. Yeah. No, I didn't think. It's like when we got in a fight in the bar, got arrested for beating this guy up at a bar, and I filled out all the paperwork, my parents' address back at my home.
Right.
Didn't bother to call my parents to tell them,
hey, your son's arrested.
So they get these papers, and
it's mail.
Back then.
Your mom spank you again? She come running to college?
But no, at that point, it was like, I think they were just shaking their heads so much, like, what are you thinking about? Like, because there's just no thought process at all about, okay, first of all, getting in the fight. I've got a college scholarship. I want to play in the NHL.
Pause right there. That's exactly what sums up your life. There's no thought process at all.
Yeah, totally.
Just go.
It is amazing. Like, I never, until you and I have done this show and I've started writing a book, I didn't understand that that's the way I had been in everything in my life. But yeah, there's just, I'm going to do it. That's just it. Good, bad, indifferent. They were just, that's what's going to happen.
No thought process at all. Just go.
Well, it's not scary.
No, it informs who you are. Getting spanked by your mother.
Yeah.
While your dad stood back and said, "No, I can't do it."
No need for it. Yeah. Well, my mother was tough too. Yeah, she was the one that I told the story. She said, "If you let somebody do that to you again, I'm going to kill you."
Yeah, yes, you did. And maybe that's why you're twice divorced. I don't know. Possibly.
It could have something to do with it. Yeah,
maybe.
Yeah. Happily twice divorced too. I look at my divorces as a positive thing. So, like my first one, I got 2 sons out of it, so that's all positive. Right. My second one, how is that a positive? I think so. Well, it was a great relationship for a long time. Just there's an expiration date on my relationships. That's really the way to look at it. There's an expiration date on all my relationships.
That's a way to look at it.
Yeah.
If you want to.
Yeah.
I think some people call that rationalization, but that's fine.
But that's all right. You got to rationalize. Yeah.
No, whatever works for you.
Because, I'm very proud of you, and I know you've got a fantastic marriage, family, and like that. But I do look at people sometimes and go, like, how did people stay together, like man and woman, for all that time?
I think when it's easy, it's just easy.
Right. It's the right person.
Yeah, I think it just works.
So there's no right person for me out there?
No, there is. You just haven't found them yet. Or you had them and you let them go.
Could be.
Yeah.
Maybe my mother spanked them right out of my leg.
That could be it. And now, speaking of spanking and friends and relatives, you have a good friend of yours and a teammate on today. We have on, and the Olympics, speaking of Olympics, we have on U.S. Olympic champion from 1980, former Ranger. We have Dave Silk.
Oh, man, my old roommate. There's hopefully we tell a lot of stories, but there's going to be a lot of stories we cannot tell. But man, we had a blast. We were on the phone the other day. It's one of those deals. I'm sure you get friends like this too. You don't talk to them for a few years, and then you get on the phone, you just die laughing, tell those stories,
like giggly little kid.
Yeah, because and again, as time goes on, you kind of think, did that really happen that way? And then you're on with somebody that was part of the story as well, and say, did it really happen that way? He goes, shit. Yeah, there you go. Oh, we had a blast. We lived all out. We were laughing about that too. And he's a good friend. He's got through his own struggles, but he's a great family. Got 2 daughters now and everything. So. Good guy.
Yeah, let's get to it. This should be good. And if you like what you're hearing, please subscribe, listen to the show, spread it around, leave us a review on Apple, and enjoy the show. Dave Silk coming up next.
What's the Irish national anthem? Maybe we could learn the Irish national anthem.
Oh, boy. You'll sing that next.
You know what? That's why we do have a show where we're doing national anthems, like singing the national anthems, like have one show.
We should probably not do that. What's the Fiji national anthem? Do you know it?
Oh, yes. You know what? They played that for us. When we went back to Ponderosa when we were done, the locals put on this big display. They had this dance and everything was the local dance. And they made this drink called, was it Gava? It's either Gava or Kava. It's a root that they grind up.
Okay.
But the guy,
Any good?
well, the guy mixes it with his bare hands, with the water and everything. It's fine. But I don't know if there's hardly any alcohol in it because I kept chugging it and I was...
They're not allowed. Did they do like a haka? Because they're Polynesian, right? Do they have or is that
No, they didn't do the hockey. That's New Zealand, isn't it?
New Zealand or Australia, parts of that?
Yeah, but rugby is a big thing there too. Actually, their rugby team had won some championship while we were down there, so it was a big deal.
Big party. And isn't Jimmy Superfly Snooker, wasn't he from Fiji?
Was he really?
I think he might have been from Fiji.
Jimmy Superfly. I
brother-
remember that name, but I don't remember.
What a great wrestler. My brother Damien will fact check that, but he's a big wrestling guy. And he was actually a pro wrestler for a little while in the Carolinas, my brother. Crazy.
So what pro wrestler was best friends with Cam Connor, my former?
Easy. Roddy Piper. Come on, man. That's easy.
It was really that easy.
Oh, yeah.
Many people knew that?
Yeah. Well, Roddy Piper, who played a Scottish character.
Right.
Yes, your accents. He was a Canadian, as most of the wrestlers were.
Right.
And he was best friends with Cam Connor.
I went over to the house one day. Roddy Piper liked his leafage. He liked it.
Oh, you were hanging out then?
Yeah.
Connor.
Yeah.
Do you mean he liked to smoke?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So they were getting stoned.
That's good for them, man.
But it was more, and the reason I bring it up, it was more back when it was kind of like taboo, right? Like, it was
Like when you were smoking at Phyllis Bozito's house.
oh, God. Oh, man, that was classic. Oh, Silky was part of that story, too. So you're going to tell that story.
We'll get to that. And speaking of Roddy Piper, he starred in a great cult movie that you've probably seen called They Live in the 80s. It's a great movie, and you should definitely check it
I
out.
don't think I've seen it. Is John Wayne in it?
John Wayne is not in it. Marion is not in that one. I don't think he was with us at the time, but Hot Rod was great. He was a really good actor, and the movie is really cool. They Live. Cult classic.
The wrestlers going to become movie stars, too, right? Like,
Because they're actors.
yeah, good point. Yeah.
They're always doing those performances and those. I think they call them shoots. Is that?
Yeah.
How they do their skits and their interviews.
I'm still devastated by the time that kid said I look like Rowdy or The Rock's grandfather.
Grandpa. Well, you were in Fiji. The Pink Rock strikes again. Dave Silk coming up next. Enjoy the show.
All right, laddies.
Tom, here we go. This is going to be a fun one today. We have on a former teammate of yours, a running buddy of yours with the Rangers, someone who was on the legendary U.S. Olympic team in 1980. We have your old pal, Dave Silk.
Oh. So, I think like a lot of guys, right? We don't talk to each other for several years, and then we get on the phone, and you and I are crying, laughing. We're telling these old stories. Like we go to each other, like, okay, did this really happen this way? And we're both just dying laughing. All right, so we got some ground rules here today. I'm going to mention a story, just the title of the story, and then David's going to decide yay or nay, or can we tell the story or not? Because some of them obviously are stories that should not be told.
Fair enough.
But we had a blast. We were talking about we just lived life all out. It was incredible. So okay, where were you born and raised?
Born in Boston, raised just outside the city, little town called Situate, a little seaside community, and started playing hockey like every other kid when Bobby Orr came to town in the mid 1960s. So that was it.
It's amazing how many people say the same thing, right? Bobby Orr comes down, I was going to be a hockey player, right? Yeah, that's cool.
It was funny, someone said the other day, you guys started playing hockey because of Bobby Orr coming to town, and then maybe a lot of guys started playing hockey after 1980. And I thought, geez, that's kind of cool.
That is very cool. That's a good point. Yeah, definitely did. All right, so you're a good player right away?
No, never could skate, and but I, like all of us, we work at it and try and figure out what we can do to get better. So, but no, I wasn't particularly good. I was probably a better baseball player.
Really? I didn't know that. Oh, really? And then, so obviously, you go through your kid playing youth hockey, get to BU University, right? Did they come? Did a lot of places recruit you?
A handful. I think I had committed early to the University of New Hampshire, and then I don't know. I do know what happened. Jack Parker showed up on my doorstep, and who's the coach at BU for many, many years, and I think similar to your experience with Rick Comley at Northern Michigan, the guy came in and just hit all the right buttons and said, I remember he said to me, I have a feeling you need an equal amount of kicks in the arse and pats on the back, and I'm willing to give you both. And I said, where do I sign?
That's good. That's smart.
And it's a real school, BU, not like Northern Michigan.
Northern Michigan is the Harvard of the Midwest.
Is it though?
Well, I've declared it.
Oh, the UP maybe.
I've declared. Well, I'm in the Hall of Fame up there. Don't criticize my sport.
It's like being the tallest midget, though.
Oh, that is terrible. That's good for us.
That's also in a bad neighborhood.
Oh, yeah, that's funny. So, did you play all 4 years in college? Did you get them all in?
No, I left after my junior year.
Oh, okay, it was.
We had a pretty good run. We had my freshman year, we lost in the semis of the NCAA tournament to Michigan. We won it all my sophomore year, and then my junior year had just kind of we had a good year, but we lost in the ECACs, and then I skipped my senior year to play for the Olympic team in '80.
Oh, you played for the Olympic team, did you?
We should talk about, because Tom, you almost played for the Olympics.
Silky, I don't know if I ever told you a story. Did I tell you, like, I tried out for the Canadian Olympic team for 1980?
One of the great things about you and I getting together is, and there's a lot of great things about getting together with you, but one of the great things is that you remember about half the things that I don't, and vice versa. So yes, the answer is yes. You did tell me about your infamous story of almost making that team, as did Paul McLean and Jim Nill and some of these other guys that I got to be friendly with. So,
that's right. You played with them in Winnipeg, didn't you? Both those guys. Oh man, what a fun night that was. That was a life-changing moment, actually. Well, good and bad.
Well, you might have changed the course of history.
That's right. Suki would not have won the U.S. Olympic. They would not have won because I would have been
one defensive away from medaling.
There you go.
Who knows?
That's what it was. Difference maker.
Well, to be honest, we always look back years later and thought how much better the Canadian team could have been simply by having you back there and by having Doug Smale on the team as well.
There you go.
And so yeah,
So they could have done movies about you instead of about Silky.
Yeah,
nice job.
My life story. So does Herb come to you before the Olympics, before the tryouts, or who approaches you to try out for the team?
So it was I was looking for a little nod. Do I stay and play for the Olympic team, or should I turn pro and go that route? Because we weren't expected to do anything in the Olympics. It would have been a good bridge year after college before turning pro, but there weren't great expectations. So I was looking for someone to say to me, maybe, well, it would be a good idea for you to play for that team or not, and just go pro. And the Rangers had drafted me, and so I was looking forward to trying that next step. But Herb never reached out to me directly. I know that he had conversations with Jack Parker, my college coach, and some other people that had reached out kind of indirectly to me. But I never spoke to Herb. I think I probably spoke to Herb, through the Olympics in 1980, probably a half a dozen times. So.
Is that right? You had that relationship with him? Oh, okay. He was that way, right? He had different relationships with everybody, right? And some people he talked to all the time, and others he wouldn't talk to. So okay, so go ahead. You jumped in there.
Oh, I was going to just, and we can talk about it. It'll probably come up, but people thought Herb was such a genius, and I would tell them, well, he was so smart. What the hell did he have me on 2 of his teams for, between the Rangers and the Olympic year? So he wasn't that smart.
That's what saved me with Freddie Sherrill. He got fired halfway through our first year because he had me up in front of the power. He had me up in front of the power play. Like what?
Is it what he was senile at the time?
Yeah. Right. And I should be careful because he got me my start in the NHL. So it was all worthwhile. But all right, so when you go to camp there, then is the feeling around the team that, okay, this is going to be fun, but we really don't have much of a shot at winning?
I don't think we ever really thought about it. When we went to camp, everyone was just focused on making the team, and the way the cuts went, they started with about 28, 29 guys, something like that. So we knew there were cuts that were ongoing, and so I think nobody really looked as to whether we're going to win in Lake Placid. I think people just wanted to be there in Lake Placid and be part of that travel squad at 20.
So did it really happen the way they portrayed it in the movie, where he has that meeting where he cuts a whole bunch, or he more mentions the guys that are staying, right? Remember that?
Yeah, I mean, they embellished it a little bit in the movie, but they stayed pretty true to form. They did. He called everyone together in the arena in Colorado Springs and announced the list. He did it alphabetically, And so so guys could tell when they went past their name that they weren't on the team, and guys were getting up and they were hot, and I'd say for the majority of guys on that team, it was probably the first team that they never made, right? So it was the first time they ever got cut. So it was a stressful environment for sure. Some guys knew they were on the team. There were guys like Morrow and Johnson and a few of those guys. They knew that they were going to be there, but there were a handful. Probably half the guys, weren't sure if they were in or out.
Right. Where were you in that list?
I wasn't sure.
Oh, okay.
Was it cool to have someone portray you in a movie and to see that? I mean, it's got to be like kind of, mess with you a little bit, right? How does it feel?
I tell people, Tom, that the guy that played me, Bobby Hansen, was a BU hockey player as well, and many years later after me, but he was this big kid that could really skate. So as a result, I actually got more ice time in the movie than I did in Lake Placid. They had him in all the hockey scenes. We came out of the premiere and guys were saying, "Silky, you never killed a penalty in your life." And what do you mean? It's on the screen. Of course I did. So
that's funny. All right, so you go. Okay, now I want to ask first: the game you played at Madison Square Garden before the Olympics and got smoked by the Russians. What was the point of that? Like, did Herb have some reason for doing that?
Well, the Russians did.
Yeah,
money.
Oh,
money.
Okay.
They got a gold loan.
But I would have thought, like, okay, you're going to ruin their confidence by you got to play this team in the Olympics, and they just 10-3 or something in that game.
Yeah. Oh, they hammered us, and we had played their B squad a couple times over the course of the year,
right, and
had done pretty well against them. And we thought, well, how much better can the A squad be? They were a lot better. And I mean, they hammered us in every way, shape, and form. So, but as history will tell you, that it worked against them.
Right. But I also wonder, like, did Jake Herb had some master plan to say, okay, we're going to play these Russians, they're going to beat us up, and maybe they'll get overconfident, right? I guess that could be the option they think about.
Maybe. I don't know. I mean, I think if I were Herb, I think it could have decimated our goalie's confidence, maybe, or someone gets hurt going in. So I don't know. I don't know what he was thinking, but I know those games were scheduled a long time before.
Oh, okay. Because they made it seem like that was like a new game that they put in there, just threw it in the last minute.
That's dramatic.
Well, yeah. I don't know. You know what? It might have been. It could have been, because we had games that would just get randomly dropped into the schedule over the course of the year. So it could have been. I don't know.
So the famous Norway game, we got skated after the game. I think they portrayed it as classic. The guys are sitting on the bench checking out all the blondes in the stands. I could just see that's what we'd be doing, right? I mean, it's an exhibition game. Oh, die! Is it really that way?
Well, I don't recall anyone scoping out chicks in the stands, but in the movie they made it look like it was Verkota in particular, and he took such offense to that.
Did he?
I was never looking at girls during the game, and
you should be proud of that. He's a hockey player. He's proud of it.
Well, part of the, and I think we've talked about it, but part of the thing that was such an eye opener for me was those guys were Boy Scouts. I mean, they you go in to the hotel after a game, night after game, and guys are doing 100 crunches before bed.
Oh,
and like they were kind of Dudley Do-Right, and then the Eastern guys walked in and to varying degrees, we weren't. And so there was kind of there was a little bit of a clash there. So that's funny.
Yeah, I played with some Minnesota guys too. We called them the cake eaters. We called them. They were the cake eaters.
Yeah, and I know. Yeah,
that's right. All right, so you go through the Olympics now. So you go into the Olympics again. You're happy you're there. You're on the team. You're representing the country. But the expectation is to win or where?
The expectation is to try and eke out a medal.
Okay.
Bronze, silver if we're extraordinarily lucky. In our division, we had the Czechs and the Swedes, or excuse me, the Swedes. The Czechs and the Swedes. So and only two would go on to the medal round. So we had to beat two teams that were on paper a lot better than we were, and so we had to have at least one big game in the preliminaries, and then hope for the best in the medal round. So, we were looking at an outside chance of getting a medal.
So you tie Sweden in the first game, then when do you guys think we have something here, like something good is happening? Which game is that?
Next game, we rolled over the Czechs.
Yeah.
Steamrolled them. Steamrolled them. And they were loaded. They had the Stasny brothers and, Halenka, I think, was on the team. They had a lot of big names that hockey people would know from the World Championships because they had been real stars there. And we steamrolled them. And
like that would be the game that's probably most surprising, right? Winning against the Russians obviously is there, but the way you beat the Czechs was
what was it, 7-2?
Yeah. I mean, we just dominated them. They had their guy in goal had a bad night, and he was a good goaltender. He was considered at the time kind of the second to Tretiak in terms of European hockey, but he had an off night, and they quit. They quit. We get up early on them, and which was one of the things that back then people would say about the Czechs. It's not that way now, but back then they had a reputation for folding under adversity. So, and they did.
Right. So you get steam on that. I think, geez, maybe we could do something here, right? We could definitely get that medal. So there's the Czechs. Who'd you play after that?
Oh boy, let's see. Then there were a couple of games where it was point night. Romania, Norway. And that's when the press started stepping in. But then the trapdoor game was
West Germany, right?
Germany. Yeah, we had to beat West Germany, and they were good, and they had beat the U.S. team, I think, in '76. They needed to beat the Germans to get into the medal round, and the Germans beat them. So, and they were good. They were a good team.
Cool. So famous Russian game. Going into it seemed like in the way they portrayed it in the movie. Now, you guys went from that team that got hammered by the Russians in New York City to now a team that really looked like you believed that you could beat the Russians. Was that accurate?
Well, I don't know. The game plan was just try and stay close. And as you know, one of the Brooksisms was don't let them score in the first 2 minutes or the last 2 minutes of a period, and let the next 16 take care of themselves. And so, we had some guidelines to try and follow and just stay close. But looking back, if someone told me or you that we'd score 4 goals on Tretiak in 16 shots, I think it was 37-16 we got outshot. So, it was fate more than game plan.
That was cool. I remember I was back at college. We just finished up my senior year. We were watching that. And obviously I knew you were drafted by the Rangers, and you and I are going to be playing together. So that was pretty cool watching that. So you win the gold medal. Like, you guys had a bunch of stuff going on.
You got to go back. Then they have to play Finland on Sunday morning to win the gold medal. You don't want to talk about that? You want to just go right past that one?
Yeah, we got to get to some more stories. Like, he's told this story about the Olympics for like how many times have you told the story about the Olympics now? Like 100 times?
Well, but he's got people want to hear it. But people are going to hear the Sportorama story too, because every time your name comes up a lot, Dave, when we do the show, and I coach at Sportorama for my kids team, and he goes, "Oh, I have a story at Sportorama with me and Dave Silt." So maybe we can talk about that one, but we'll see.
All right. So that's good. You're right. There's people listening who want to talk about Finland. So Finland, then, I mean, you have to be ready. This is a good hockey team in Finland too to win. That's game you still had to win the gold medal. Right?
Yeah, Jari Kurri, and they had some big names. They were good. They were very good. I'll never forget I think the famous line from that whole thing is Herb had a routine that he'd come in just before you'd go out for the game and say whatever he was going to say, and Herb never came in, and they were blowing the buzzer waiting for us to go out, and Herb walked in and looked at us and said, "You guys blow this game, you'll take it to your graves." And he walks out, and in this day and age of positive reinforcement, something like that it just seems so strange, right? And we all looked at each other, and then he walked back in and said, "You're effing graves." And he walked out, and Craig Patrick came in and said, "Okay, guys, let's go."
Oh, God, that's right.
And that's when we went out for the first period.
So people heard all that time, like all the speeches he made. Is there times where you look and the guys in the room are going, "What is he talking about?"
Yeah, I forget who it was, whether it was Bob Johnson or Milbury or somebody talked about part of being a great coach is being a great actor, and and I remember finding out after the fact once Herbie came in and flipped his lid and threw the Gatorade, the big Gatorade jug in the middle of the room across the wall and hit the blackboard. And what people didn't know until after was he had told the assistant coach to go in and dump all the Gatorade out so he could lift it. So,
right.
So it was all premeditated,
That was Herbie. Yeah. Herbie I don't think Herbie did anything just off the cuff. Like, he always had a plan, right? He knew what he was going to say.
Everything was preordained.
Yeah. I remember when he first meeting with the Rangers, and we'd had that good year the year before in 80-81, where it wasn't a really good regular season. Then we fired Freddie, and Craig took over, and now we had that good run in the playoffs. So now, typically, you keep that team together if you go to the semifinals. But now Herb comes in wanting to make all these changes. And the first meeting he comes into, it's like, okay, this is the way it's going to go. I'm telling you right now, this is the plan. I've got all the practice schedule. Jack Blatherwick's here. Thank God he wasn't. This was all a schedule and plan. He walked out of the meeting going, okay, I guess Herb's got it. That was the one thing with him. He could sell well. Like, he really sold it.
Yeah.
That he had his way. It was going to work. If everybody did their jobs. Yeah, he was good that way.
Good actor, like they said.
Yeah, he was. Think about it. That's a great thing to say about it. He really was. All right, so with the gold medal. Go ahead, but.
No, I was just going to say that Herb was, he always had his sayings but one of the things that he said when he turned pro, when he went to the pros was, there's 5 guys on every team that like you, 5 guys on every team that don't like you, and 5 that aren't sure. He said, so the trick is making sure the 5 guys that like you are your 5 best guys. and that's and he did that with the Rangers, he made sure.
Well, the difference in relationships with guys, like my relationship was great. Well, he picked on me all the time, but as far as playing, I was fantastic. 4 best years of my career with her. But there's other guys like Ron Greshner, Dave Maloney, those kind of guys who were great players. It just didn't mesh.
Mike Rogers.
Mike Rogers, yeah, good point. Yeah, good point. All right, so let's get to some stories here. All right, so you win the gold medal. You come into New York. You're staying there. Where did they put you up in the hotel?
So immediately after the Olympics, we sign a deal to do a car commercial, and it turns out to be Volkswagen of all cars, right? Like, of course. And so they put us all up in the Plaza Hotel, and we're living large on the Plaza Hotel, and while they cut this car commercial, but then after 2 days, everyone's gone, and but I had turned pro with the Rangers, so I just stayed there. And I remember Espo would pick me up in the mornings to bring me up to Playland to practice. And after a week or so, I said, hey, Phil, do you think I should tell the Rangers that I'm staying at the Plaza? And he's like, no, this is great. Are you kidding me? No.
I could just see Phil doing that too. Oh, so you ran into some famous people while you were there too, didn't you?
Yeah, yes, I did. So I would go down to the Oyster Bar every afternoon and have a cup of chowder and a draft beer and just see who would come through coming through the Plaza. And I was there one afternoon, and this really attractive woman came and sat down and was friendly and being a gentleman, I offered to buy her a glass of wine. I think she had a glass of wine. I asked if she wanted another glass of wine, and she said, no, I don't think that's a good idea. My husband and we have a crew coming in. There's a crew coming to meet me, and I said, okay, yeah, great, And I got my bill and a tab and signed it, and the next morning we're going to get down for practice, and the elevator door opens on the 34th floor, and larger than life, who's in the elevator but the champ, Muhammad Ali, and had his 2 handlers are on either side of him, and I get in and I looked at him, and and he's big. He's a big guy, and I looked and of course I'm wearing all that foolish USA Olympic stuff and that goddamn stupid cowboy hat and everything else, and So they looked at me immediately and they said, "Are you from that hockey team?" And I said, "Yes, I am." And Ali says, Bundini Brown, his handler, says, says, "Champ, you have a gold medal somewhere, right?" And he just kind of chuckled, and there's a whole story behind that. But anyway, so Ali stuck out his hand and said, "I'm Ali," and I said, "Oh, I know," and I shook his hand, and then he turns and he says, "This is my wife Veronica," and it was a woman that had been at the oyster bar the night before, and I thought, "Oh dear God,
Oh boy.
I'm never gonna make it out of this elevator."
At least I won the gold medal, and that's it.
Yeah. What a way to go. Yeah.
Did everybody want a piece of you guys after that? Was it hectic and crazy?
A little bit, it was, there was some of that. My favorite, there were celebrity sightings all the time, right? And back then, Studio 54 was a big deal, and it wasn't really my cup of tea. But when people would come to visit, we'd go down there, and so you'd always see people somewhere, right? But I like the Lone Star Cafe downtown.
Oh yes, the Lone Star Cafe. That was our Sunday night spot, wasn't it?
Right? Yes.
Oh,
Yes, it was. Yes, it was. And looking back, like there was a guy that bartended at a place over by the UN, and Bubba Beck lived in Turtle Bay there, in Midtown, and so once in a while we'd go over on a Sunday afternoon if we had a free, and it was Bruce Willis was the bartender over there.
Oh wow!
And so there was just kind of, it was New York, and so it was a ton of fun.
Right. So then they sent you to New Haven at some point, right? While you're there, like you signed your contract, right?
Yeah, that's where we met, right?
Yeah. Well, I was going to say that's where the fun begins, right there in New Haven, Connecticut.
Yeah, it does. Yes, it does. Yeah, nothing like it. That boy, oh boy.
I know it sounds weird, but Silky and I, we get on the phone, it's just constant laughing, telling these old stories, because we're thinking to ourselves, like, now he's had 2 daughters, I've had 2 sons, and we think to some of the stories that we weren't thinking at all. It was just, the only thought process is we're having fun, we're going for it. Like I don't think there was anything that we turned down, right? If there was a chance to do something, we did it. Right?
Please share.
Oh, we will. We'll tell some stories here. So again, here's go ahead. So keep jumping in.
No. Go ahead.
So, okay, so we're going to, I have a list of stories, and Silky's going to say yay or nay, whether we're going to tell the story or not. Obviously, there's some that, I'll mention the title of the story, but we know we can't tell it. Okay, the rookie year, it must be rookie years, Phil Esposito invited yourself, myself, Greshner, Duguay, and Beck over to his place. Him and his wife were putting on a nice apartment, putting on a nice Thanksgiving dinner, I believe. So, I don't want to paint the wrong picture, but there was several glasses of wine flowing. And then also, I don't know who it was, one of the 3 older guys pulled out a doobie that was the size of a cigar. And we're with Phil Esposito. Now, Phil's getting stoned. I'm thinking to myself, I'm with Phil Esposito in the National Hockey League, and he's getting stoned. So I don't want to paint the picture that he fell back. Actually, I blew this. I didn't give the title of the story. This is one I can tell. This is good. I'm going to the next one. So I don't want to paint the picture that he fell backwards into the fire, but he laid back down close enough to the fire that we're thinking, okay, if he passes out, the top of his head's going to get burnt. And the other 3 guys are dying laughing. So Silky and I have to grab his feet and pull Phil Esposito out away from the fire. Like, and again, I went home and called my buddies back in Northern Michigan. I said, you won't believe what just happened. Do you remember that? Oh, classic.
I can't believe you're telling it, though. I'm so proud of you.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I know. Well, we had Phil on a show. And the F-bomb is the only word he uses now. It's like, it's every form of word. It's always coming out.
Well, Phil's 80 now, right?
Yeah.
He's coming on our show, but he said we have to pay him in vodka to get him on the show.
I get 3 bottles of vodka. Oh, Silky, you would have died. We had him on the show with Greshner, Maloney, those guys, and he asked me before the show, can you swear? And I said, well, you got to be a little careful. He said he must have dropped the F-bomb 300 times. It got to be just hilarious. And even when I mentioned to him, I said, Phil, you're kind of breaking the record for the F-bomb. The next word out of his mouth.
F you, I'm going anyway. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Good. But he was great to us too, so
that's one good story.
And as part of, I remember going the first road trip before I got to New Haven before the end of the year there, and I went to Montreal with the Rangers, and Espo picked me up to bring me to LaGuardia, and which, by the way, we talked about this offline, but there's no way that hockey players nowadays have as much fun as we had back then. And part of it was flying commercial all the time. We just had so much more time to ourselves, right? Like, it wasn't structured time the way it is now. And So guys, just hanging around the airports and staying in cities after games because you had to catch a flight the next morning was, just made for so much more fun. Anyway, I remember going to the airport with Phil and for that first road trip, and I had my best 3-piece brown corduroy suit on, and and I said to Phil, hey, what do I do? Like, do I get a boarding pass? Like, what happens? I remember Phil saying, well, the first thing you do is burn that fucking suit.
When it was childish fun too, like we'd have a layover in the airport and we'd do the stupid stuff, like we get a $1 bill and attach a string to it, and people would be walking by. We do stuff like I can't fall asleep on a plane now because I did so much stuff to people that they're going to.
Oh, you got karma coming your way.
Oh, totally. Shaving cream on the head, stealing the shoes, cut tie. Guys would get on, like as long before 9/11, obviously, they get on the carousel, right when it's going behind the scenes. So when it comes out again, the guy's standing on the carousel like a statue, so all these other people are sitting around like, what is going on for these guys?
The kids there must have loved that. There's my idols.
Oh,
that guy like Knucklehead.
Yeah. Oh, but it's like 25 guys in suits are acting like 12 years old. Yeah. It was fun. All right. Next story. The maple tree in Rye, New York.
Oh dear.
I think the reactions are as good as the story.
Oh God. Okay. So I won't go all the way in, but it was a local establishment there. And Soki and I would go in there for lunch and maybe a couple of adult beverages very often, and we would get to know the same people all the time. And they would keep on. It just got to be this regular routine. How much farther can we go on that story? Do we want to talk about the whip and the dog collar or no?
Well, yeah, no, I think you probably just did.
We just did.
I think that's probably, no, we don't.
Yeah, we'll go. That's enough.
Yeah. So suffice to say that there was a guy that was a bartender. At that place that ended up. I ended up playing a lot of golf with him up in the Boston area. 35 years later or 40 years later, and he would see me and he would say, "How are you guys still alive?"
All right. How about the kitchen slide?
Kitchen slide.
That's a clean story.
Yeah.
So next day we're going to go leave on a road trip. So can you jump in there and tell the story? You're going to tell these stories.
Well, I'd like to know how it started, but But I think we were looking. I think we were looking at what was in the fridge, and because we were going on a big swing, we weren't going to be around a while, and we were worried about stuff going bad, which turned out to be the least of my concern. But somehow, I don't know. Somehow, I think maybe it was an egg toss or a head of lettuce, or I don't know if we had anything that healthy in the fridge. But anyway, the fridge emptied out on the floor, and then it was like a slip and slide. You get a running start from the front door, from the front hallway, and see how far you could make it.
Oh, and this wasn't once or twice too. It was repetitive. Like we'd run it down, like our heads first going into the wall and all.
How old are you guys at this time?
We were 6 years old. Yeah. No, we were 23 or 24 years old at that time. Yeah.
Oh, and then I remember we had an argument about who was going to clean up, and so we were both too stubborn. So I think we just left it and went out for like 14-day trip.
So back there's more
rotten eggs on the floor.
Oh, I was just like the whole thought. I thought now looking at ourselves doing that while we're doing it. Like at the time, it just seemed like the greatest thing in the world.
Like, what is wrong? Well, is this Dave Maloney's apartment or is this?
No, this was a house we just rented right off Rye Plainland in Rye, close to.
Well, remember who rented it to us?
Who?
Maloney's wife.
Oh, it's a broker.
She was a broker, and she was so upset because at the end of the season we took off, and I think we left. I know that we left laundry in the washing machine. And I remember getting this call and from.
I forgot about this.
Yeah, from Maloney's wife, and I will never, ever rent to you again. And I thought, well, chances of recording in the NHL are slim and none these days anyway. So,
oh God, I forgot all about that because my first year, the year before that, I'd roomed with Chris Kasopoulos, and we rented Dave Maloney's apartment from him. And she'd come over to check on it too, and it was ridiculous. Like Dave was on the other day talking about how I make the bed perfect at 3:30 in the morning. The sheets are perfect. He thinks back then I didn't have sheets at all back then. So, yeah.
fact that he still talks to you is impressive too.
Yeah, it really is. Yeah, because I think about it, like he was this classy gentleman too, and we're all these mudheads doing all this stuff. Yeah, it seemed like a great idea.
No, that was, I don't know about you, but for me, stepping in as a rookie into, with Gresh and Maloney and those guys, like they were young, they were our age or, a year or two older, but they had been in the league 5 or 6 years. And, Maloney was a captain and they were such professionals, Donnie Maloney, like they were just great pros. And I thought, like, where do you learn that?
That's true.
It was really impressive to this day. And you had a lot of that in you too. I got to give you props. You had a lot of that leadership quality.
Really?
But yeah, I really did. Yeah, I really did.
I hit it.
But it was just really impressive.
Yeah, no, they were. Yeah, that is true, right? A guy like Dave, like he's always, I've just always admired him, the way he carried himself while he played, preparing himself for after the game. Yeah, we had him on the show recently, and I constantly say that to him. He's very respect. And I think as time's gone on, I respect him even more because of that stuff too. I was doing a lot of things to help myself, like going to truck driving school too. That really helped a lot. Were you still with us?
Oh, when you went to truck driving school?
Yeah.
No, I missed that one.
Okay.
Thank God.
Yeah.
Do you remember there was a little bar around the corner from where we lived called Kelly's?
Yeah, it's still there.
Is it? And
it's still there. Yeah.
Like it was like underground. It was like in the basement, right?
They call it Kelly's below sea level. Yeah.
That's what I thought. Kelly's below sea level. Yeah. I remember one time I was hurt and you guys were out in Minnesota playing. And so I went down there. They had great cheeseburgers.
Yes. Yeah.
And so I went in there to have a cheeseburger and there was only one other guy in the bar. And so I'm at one end of the bar. This guy's at the other end of the bar. And the bartender comes over and says, "Hey, I want you to, let me introduce you to," and the Rangers are playing the Stars. And he said, "Let me introduce you to my friend Paul down here." I get down there and it's Paul Newman.
Really?
Oh, wow.
And he had just bought a boat in Stamford or Greenwich or wherever it was, and he was headed back to Westport. I think he lived in Westport in Connecticut. And but we ended up shooting the breeze, talking about boats, and then he started telling us about Slapshot because they had just filmed that like 2 years earlier, and how much fun he had on the set of Slapshot and all the practical jokes and what a time.
Yeah.
What a time.
Oh, you've had a full life, my friend. You had a full life.
But were you like, "Hey, Paul, guess what I just did with Tom Laidlaw? We threw eggs down the hallway and left him there for 2 weeks." You didn't tell him that, did you?
You know what? Yeah, I should have invited him over for some slip and slide. He would have loved it. Yeah.
Can you imagine like NHL hockey players doing that? Like if somebody else was to see that, they go, "What?"
Good luck. Again, my perspective is I'm probably 8, 9 then. I'm looking up to you guys as the heroes, and this is what you're doing.
All right, number 5 Orange in Vancouver, British Columbia. Can we or can we not tell that story? Or can we clean it up a little bit? Or what do you think?
Yeah, can we make it a kind of a PG version?
Yeah, we'll do the PG version. Would you like to take the stab at that, Mr. Schultz?
No, I would.
Really,
I'll follow your lead. How's that?
So there's going to be a little bit of a common theme here. Soki and I were together. We had plenty of confidence in ourselves. So if we went someplace, we felt like everybody knew us as NHL hockey players. So we just, and a lot of things we did, it was just like, we'll get it done. Don't worry about it. We'll figure it out. So there's a famous Canadian ballet, we'll call it, in Vancouver called Number 5 Orange. Now, Soki and I think we know where it is, but we really have no clue where it is. And it's raining. So we go out in our suits, walking around Vancouver for hours, trying to find Number 5 Orange. Pretty accurate so far, am I at this?
You're right on the money.
Thank you. So we finally find Number 5 Orange. We go in there. It's packed. No place to sit. But there's one older gentleman that's at a table by himself. Now, he's asleep at this point. And so we very gently, and I thought considered like respectfully, we picked him up in his chair and moved him to another location so we could take the table over. So now we're hungry because haven't had lunch or walking around all day, and we order food. Suki orders a bowl of chili, I believe, correct? The chili was not very well made. Suki gets food poisoning. And can't play the next day.
Oh, wow.
Oh, the scene of us walking around with the suits on, we're soaking wet. We walk into this place, moving this old guy out of the way. Oh God! And then Suki gets. Did you play the next game, or you couldn't play it?
I don't. I mean, even if I dressed, I didn't play much anyway.
Yeah.
But But I just remember thinking to myself, well, how big can Vancouver be? We can find it. You know? And plus it's on the West Coast. I mean, there's only 3 directions we can go.
But more importantly, who orders strip club chili?
This would be a common theme. Yeah.
That was probably, in hindsight, you're right. Probably.
I know we can tell this story. And I think I've told this one before. The fondue pot in Quebec City, Quebec. Would you like to take a stab at this one, Mr. Show?
I will please jump in. But what I do remember is that we were so excited. I had never been to Quebec City before. Had you?
No, I not. No, first time.
Yeah. So we're in the old city, the walled city there, and we're drinking Labatt's or Molson's, whatever the beer of Canada and Quebec, and so because we're in Quebec City, we have to be cosmopolitan, and we order the fondue, and I remember looking around and seeing that tables were getting farther and farther away from us a little bit at the time,
and they're staring at us too, right?
Yeah, and we thought it was just because we were Americans and
NHL. No, we were NHL hockey players. Yeah, totally.
Well, yeah. Actually, that was it. And we were pounding Labatt's because it was getting hotter and hotter. And all of a sudden, I remember hearing over my shoulder, "Tabernac," and a waiter coming over, and they threw open the emergency doors and threw the whole table out the snow. Fondue had caught on fire. We thought that was the way it was supposed to be.
Oh, right? God, it was so funny because we were like totally cocky too. Everybody's staring at us. We were like, "Oh yeah, we're NHL hockey players, right, Joe?" And then looking at us because we're going to get burnt here.
You were hitting the table higher, gee.
Oh, we really hadn't done anything. It's just they turned it up too high. It wasn't like we adjusted. We just sat down and pounded beers, and we were thinking we're so cool. Oh, no. That's one of those stories, Silky. I know I said this to you, but years later, we hadn't seen each other in a while. We got on the phone. I said, "Silky, did that really happen like that?" And you go, "Yeah, it did."
I remember looking at you like I was shocked at what did we do wrong, and I remember you looking at me and saying something like, "I'm not paying for that."
That's probably true. I got to tell you, we got more. A lot of stories we can't tell you here on air, but really, like, we laughed about it the other day when we had talked for a while. I said, "Man, we had a great life. I mean, just all out all the time. It's good." Yeah, we tell the stories about the drinking and everything too, and that I don't want to paint the picture that like now the game's totally different. That was part of the culture back then. That was actually like you wanted the guys together drinking beer. The team would supply the beer on the bus, on the plane, locker room after games and everything.
But look, it's 40 years later, and you guys are both giggling, like, "Oh, having a fun time." So obviously, it was well lived,
How many years? So when did you get traded?
For me,
when did you get traded?
84. It was in my option year, so It was. I had worn out my welcome there, and fortunately, I got traded to Boston, and
that's right.
So was there, but I was just thinking that I remember one day, because we lived pretty hard, but at the same time, we were ready to play. But I remember one time going to practice or waking up for practice, and I was late, and we had spent too much time at the Maple Tree or wherever it was, and I couldn't find my keys. And
I remember that.
And you had already gone, and I'm like, "Oh, Jesus!" I started to like jog to try and get to practice on time. And I saw a little kid's bike in the yard next to our house or down the street, and so I took the kid's bike and pedaled it over to Playland, and it was like a 12-year-old's bike, So I looked like a grown up on a tricycle, I'm pedaling the thing, and I'm like, Jesus, if anyone sees me, I'm in trouble. So I went in through the back door of the Zamboni, of course. Wouldn't you know it, who's back there checking on the Zamboni, on the ice or whatever? But Herbie sees me come wheeling in on this 12-year-old's bike, and he just looks at me like, "You gotta be shit."
But now we took the bike back after too, though, so I don't want to be.
We returned it. Yeah, we returned.
Well, and that is true. So I want to ask you a question. I want to make one statement first. So this is just a comment, continue on that theme with Silky. So we had this place, the pub that we'd go to, and Herbie knew what cars we drove. So a lot of guys would try to hide the cars so Herbie couldn't find them. Of course, I would want to park right in front of the place just to egg him on. So he came to me one time at practice, and he's steaming. He goes, "Listen, Laidlaw, I went by the bar at 2:00. Your car was still there. I went by the bar at 4:00. Your car was still there. what is going on? I said, if you went by the bar at 6 o'clock, it still would have been there too. So leave me alone. I'll be your hardest worker today. And he turned around, walked away. I actually think he'd liked, I don't think he didn't want to, but he didn't want guys to be like,
He threw it back at him.
yeah, I wanted.
Yeah, he would every once in a while he'd trade for a character.
Yeah.
You know, not just character, but a character. Like I remember he looked around and he thought he had too many Boy Scouts in the room, and he traded for Youngie, right? Young and Tommy Young.
That's right. Yeah. Yeah.
So, he just wanted a little bit of spirit in the room.
Definitely. So what are your, I mean, you went through a lot of stuff with Herb, and with Herb coaching when you get traded as well. Is he still there?
Yeah. So,
What are your memories of Herb then? Positive, negative? How do you feel about him?
I got to know him. I got to know him more when I went back. I was coaching at BU when I went back to school, and because I was coaching, and he was coaching, I think, in Albany at the time for the New Jersey franchise, and I spent more time talking to him then as another coach than I ever did as a player, and his relationship was completely different. He was much more approachable, and I think he had his wings clipped a little bit too, at that point. So, it was we were just in different stages of our careers and our lives, but he was really approachable, and he was much more. I think to your point, he was much more amenable to people with different personalities. He didn't want to have a bunch of guys that were kind of straight ahead, 3 square meals every day. That mentality. He wanted guys that mix, and he felt that was important. So, but he was great. I never and at his funeral, his brother Dave pulled me aside and said, "Hey, Dave, I got to tell you, my brother loved you." And I said, "Oh, well, he did a pretty good job of hiding it. That's for goddamn sure." But, I mean, who knew?
It's funny you say I was told the same thing. Remember Chuck Grillo, Minnesota guy? So Chuck was good friends with Herb too. And we're up at Chuck's camp up in Minnesota. I can't remember what it was called, but he said that to me one time too. I was in the agent business. He says, "You were one of Herbie's favorites." And I said, he sure did show it.
Yeah.
But looking back at, I think he wanted those guys that were tough enough mentally to handle it, right? Like he didn't they weren't soft guys. I think that's who he really likes. So, yeah.
It was interesting on the Olympic team. It was the first time that I had ever been, and that he was treating me like keeping me at arm's length. Didn't say much to me, didn't communicate much, and I had never had that before. So it was really different. It was I was used to having coaches that were father figures, and so it was just different.
Yeah.
But he was a great coach.
Yeah, it was like the psychology of the coaching, right? It's like how to, like for me, it was, convince me, tell me that I was going to have a certain role. I was going to be that defensive, but then following up with that, making sure that I was put on the ice, all those key situations defensively too. So it was like a two-way street. It was good. So you got traded to Boston. How long did you play in Boston?
It was just under 2 years. Got banged up, and it did. I don't know. I had a pretty good start. I had a good finish my first year. I had a decent start my second year. Just didn't work out. It got less and less ice time, and it was great. It was fantastic. Being able to play for a hometown team, and it's not so great when you're on the bubble every day and you're going in and thinking, "Is this my last day? Is my bag going to be packed when I go to practice today?" So that was kind of a drag, but still, guys like O'Reilly and some of those guys, it was such a treat to be part of that. So then when I was still late after that.
Oh, you did. That's sorry. I forgot about that. Yeah. And that was you in Boston Earth too, right? They hadn't had the new building.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Very much the old Boston Garden.
Yeah.
I remember when Gretzky came in and the reporters were saying, "Hey, what do you think? Isn't this great?" Like it was Yankee Stadium, like the venerable old building. And he said, "This place is a dump."
The rats were running through the locker room and everything. Oh, God. Yeah.
Right.
And I forgot about Detroit. How long were you in Detroit?
Not long. Just I think I played 1 year there, and then ended up signing as a free agent with Winnipeg, with Fergie again.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, that's right. So what was Winnipeg as a city? Like, Winnipeg could be a beautiful city, but it is cold. The wind blows through there. Like, Timmy Waters is an old teammate of mine, and he was telling me stories of how the tire would be flat on the bottom. It'd be frozen flat. So you're driving down the road to down the road there.
Yeah, he was there. He was, Mud was there. Waters, McLean, Nil.
Jim Kite was there too at the time.
Jimmy Kite was there.
Was Luke was there too?
Morris Lukowitz was there?
He was gone. He had just left. Yeah, he just left. Randy Carlisle, Dave Babbage. And
Dave Babbage, the hairiest man in hockey right there.
Right. So Babs, I get there to camp, and Babs says, "Hey, Silky, you like to fish, right?" And I said, "Yeah, I love to fish." So we have a day off. It was like September 8th or September 12th, something like that. We had a day off in camp, and he says, "I have my bass boat here. We got a day off tomorrow. You want to go fishing?" I said, "Absolutely, let's do it." And so I get up early the next morning, and there's like 4 inches of snow on the ground. And I go out, and my car was parked outside at the garage at the hotel, and so I go out to move the car, and the snow had dripped off my shoes onto the mat under the gas pedal, and froze. And honest to God, that frozen block, that ice on the driver's side mat was there until I drove out after the playoffs in May, drove through Lake of the Woods, and drove home that year. And the ice, it started on September 12th, and it didn't melt until after the playoffs.
It was cold. When I was in LA, we would go in on a Thursday night, play Friday, stay until we played a game on Sunday afternoon. So we'd be there for like 3.5 days. And you're in Winnipeg, and like you want to go to a movie or something like that. And by the time you get to the movie, your ears are frozen, and they don't thaw out until the movie's over with. Then you got to go back. It was cold. Yeah. So is that where you retired, Silky? Winnipeg?
Yeah. So I finished in Winnipeg, and I guess I was 86, and then had they offered me a 2-way contract, and I knew I was going to the minors, and I had a chance to go to Germany, and so I took the easy route and went to Germany, and 1 year turned into 5, and ended up playing for 5 years over there. So
I didn't know that. Wow, that's cool. That's actually a great experience, right?
It was a great experience. Yeah, we were actually there in Berlin when the wall came down, and it was wonderful. And the tax rate between the Canadian dollar and the tax rate in Manitoba. I made more in Germany my first year than I made my last year in the NHL. So,
any fondue restaurants over there?
I don't think I've had fondue since Quebec City, and I don't plan on it anytime soon. I start to get like an eye twitch if I see a sterno can.
How about stripper chili?
But in serious note, though, Dave, you're involved in 2 of the defining moments of the century, which is when you step back, it's pretty cool to think about. You're in Germany for the wall, and you're in part of the gold medal game against the Olympics against Russia. That's pretty impressive.
Well, that's not just a coincidence, Tom.
That is true. You think back about that gold medal thing, man, that's incredible.
But then you're in Berlin when the wall comes down, and that's unbelievable too.
Yeah, very true.
Yeah, that was wild. That was wild.
So what'd you do after the game, Silky? I know what'd you get done in Germany?
So I went back to school. I had only finished about 2 years of undergrad when I turned pro. So, or when I went to the Olympic team. So I was going back to school every summer and trying to get my undergrad done. And so I think it took me like 17 and a half years to get my undergraduate degree done. But then I went back and got an MBA after that when I was coaching with Jack Parker. So I get an MBA and get into the investment business here in Boston and raise money for mutual fund companies and the retirement space for 25 years or so.
Oh, retired now?
You know what? I had retired 2 years ago, and the first 6 months it was great, and then the next 6 months I was bored stiff. So an opportunity came up. I work as a communications director at the convention center here in Boston. So I'm back working.
Very good. Good. 2 daughters?
2 daughters, 2 grandsons.
That's right.
Yeah. Life rolls on. Yeah.
Well, I'm sure you feel the same way. The time we spent together, we tell these wild stories, but man, we had some great times together. Like, look back and go, man, that was like, we didn't leave anything undone, right? It was just living life all out. I had a great time. So.
Well, you know what? In all seriousness, it was hanging with you and breaking into the NHL together is a time that it was a time of my life, and I cherish it. I absolutely cherish it. So this is a blessing for me. So thank you for having me on.
Well, there you go. You got your buddy back on. We've been trying to get him on for a while. Your old running buddy from your rookie years, first years at the NHL.
Can we do like an X-rated version of that?
For sure. Well, we did before we went on the air, but we didn't get into it.
Man, it's great to see a guy like that too. We had so much. He mentioned it here near the end of the show where we started together. We had so many great times together. And again, it's typical guys, keep in touch. But when we do, and we were crying laughing the other day when we start telling the old stories.
I think that's the good thing about, and I think this happens with men a lot, is you just pick it up.
Yeah.
And then that's being like a low maintenance friend.
And you know what else too? I think as you get older, you're more appreciative of things looking back. And for me, doing these shows with you and doing a book and everything, it really makes me look back at my life and all the people that were in it and great times.
Yeah, no, that was great. It's great to hear his stories and the fact that he was in those 2 pivotal moments.
Yeah.
In America.
I can just understand that about the German thing. Yeah. Well, I said, no, he's this
crazy. We didn't get into Sportorama, and I'm going there today to coach, but maybe next time we'll find out about that story.
That's a whole X-rated show right there. I'll tell you. One. Oh man, it was all great to talk to him. Good person, and I'm glad he's doing well too. He's got the young girls, or not young girls, or adults.
He's got grandkids.
Yeah, that's right. He's grandpa. Yeah.
So all good. It's great to have him on. Great show. If you like this, please subscribe, listen, share, spread it around, leave us a review, and enjoy the show.
Yes, and next week we'll be doing some Irish accents. Maybe we'll do German accents because he was in Germany. We'll get him back on. What is a German?
You can try to do a German accent?
I see nothing. I hear nothing.
Doing Hogan's Heroes.
But he was German.
No, he was an actor doing a bad accent. Come on, man.
That's all I can think of now. Yeah. All right, everybody. All right, Grasshoppers. Thank you for listening. We had a fantastic show. We'll see you next time.